For question 19, it says, use the given zero to find the remaining zeros of the following function. So for question 19, we know that we have a zero at 3i. And as recall, imaginaries always come with a partner. So it's impossible to only have one imaginary. If I have a positive I, that means I also have a negative 3i. So it's a fourth degree, so I know I'm looking for 4 answers. And I know my first two are 3i and negative 3i. So the factor that will give us those two imaginary answers is x squared plus 9. X squared plus 9, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick review. If that was your factor to solve it, I would subtract the 9, of course, and then I would take the square root of negative 9. We cannot have a negative, so we would separate it, and that's how we would get our plus and minus 3i. So I'm going to do long division, and I'm using this factor. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now that we know what factor we're using, let's go ahead and get started. So I have the x squared plus 9, and that's going to divide into x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 5x squared plus 27x minus 36. It's really important that you are neat and you give yourself, that you're neat when you work through these questions, because it's easy to drop a negative. So I'm going to go ahead before I get started. I'm going to double check that I copied it correctly, and I did. Okay, so the steps to long division, you divide your leading term, so that would be x to the 4th divided by x squared. X squared goes on the roof, and I like to line up my coefficients, so that's why I put it here. It doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't affect your answer. So when I divide x to the 4th by x squared, I get x squared, and that's why I put that there. Second step, take the answer you got, which was x squared, and multiply it by your divisor, which is x squared plus 9. And when I distribute, I will get x to the 4th plus 9x squared. So I'm going to bring that over here. And because I'm subtracting, both of those signs need to flip. So this becomes a minus x to the 4th, and this becomes a minus 9x squared. Again, I am lining up my my like terms. So here, this is going to cancel. All right, this comes down. This becomes a negative 4x squared. All right, and now I'm going to repeat. So let me take this away. Now my new leading term is 3x cubed. So I'm going to take 3x cubed and divide that by x squared. That's going to give me 3x, and that's going to go on the roof. Then I'm going to take that 3x and multiply it by x squared plus 9, which will give me 3x cubed plus 27x. When I bring it over and I line up my like terms, all right, that's looking good because two things should cancel out, and they do. So I'm going to bring down my last two terms and do this one more time. When I take negative 4x squared, because every time I do this, I'm getting a new leading term. So now my new leading term would be negative 4x squared divided by x squared, which gives me a negative 4. Now I have my quadratic that I can factor. I'm multiplying that by x squared plus 9, and I get negative 4x squared minus 36. Change, so this becomes positive, and this becomes positive. So They both cancel. I end with a 0. You should end with a 0 because I know this is a factor. Whenever you divide something by the factor, that means your remainder is 0. So now I have my quadratic, and I'm ready to find my last two answers. So I'm going to use what I have on my roof, which is here. I'm going to factor that down. So in order to factor that, I would need two numbers that multiply to be -4 and add to +3. So that would be a +4 and a -1. Set both of those equal to 0. I get x equals -4 and x equals 1. And I have found all of my answers. All right, let's look at question 20. Question 20, they don't give us a factor, and they expect us to find all of them. Because it's a third degree, I know I'm looking for 3 answers. So because I don't know a 0, I need to figure out, well, what are my possible answers? Because it's a third degree, I need to find 1 to bring it down to a quadratic. So what are some possibilities? So I'm going to take all the factors of 6, which are 1, 2, 3, and 6, and I'm going to divide that by all the factors of q, which is 1 and 2. So my possible, these are just the possible, because we have to know, we don't want to waste our time doing synthetic division with numbers that aren't even a possibility. So when I take these 4 numbers and I divide it by 1, and I'm not going to put a plus and minus in front of every number, but every number has a positive or negative. So I would have 1, 2, 3, and 6. And now I'm going to take these numbers and divide them by 2. So I have 1/2, that's a possibility. 2 divided by 2 is 1, we already have that. 3 over 2. And then 6 over 2 is 3. We already have that. So these are my possibilities. So I need to find one answer. If I find one, then I could factor it or use the quadratic formula to find my last two. So I'm going to test +1. Let's look at my terms. I have 2, 9, 13, and 6. Let's see if 1 will work. You could also do f of 1 to see if you get a remainder of 0. But if you do that, you'll still have to go back and do synthetic. So I usually just do synthetic to test. Bring down the 2, so that would be 1 times 2, which is 2. Carry that over here. 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 times 1 is 11. I can already tell that this is not going to work because I don't end with a 0. So 1 is not one of my solutions. So let's repeat. We tried 1. Now let's try -1. -1 here. I have a 2, a 9, a 13, and a 6. Bring down the 2. That would be a -2. That's a 7. Okay, this is looking promising. Oh, okay. Yay. I know that -1, that's one of my answers. So this represents A, B, and C of my quadratic. So sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, I think. All right, so 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. I'm going to go ahead and factor that down. You can use whatever factoring method you prefer. I need 2 numbers that multiply to be A times C, which is 12, and add to 7, so that would be 4 and 3. And then I simply take out my GCF. So this would be a 2x, this is a 3, this is a x, and this is a 2. When I check, everything does work out. When I multiply, everything on the outside, I do get the terms on the inside. So to get my last 2 solutions, I'm going to take the x plus 2, set that equal to 0, and I get -2. That's my second answer. And then I'm going to take 2x plus 3, set that equal to 0, and I get x equals negative 3 over 2. And that would be your 3 solutions. All right, now let's look at our graph. So whenever you're approaching this graph, there's a couple of things I like to start off with. The first thing I like to look at is what is my end behavior going to be? And I see that this is odd positive. So I know that this side should increase, the left side should be decreasing. They should be opposite and the right side should be going up. So steps to graph. First thing you want to do is take out your GCF, which is x. I'm going to divide all these terms by x. And then I'm going to factor that down further. I need two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to negative 6. So that would be negative 4 and negative 2. So x minus 4, x minus 2. So my 3 zeros would be at 0, 0, 4, 0, and 2, 0. And all of my degrees on every single last one of these factors is odd. So it's going to go through, excuse me, at all three of these points. So I'm going to put my points down on my x-axis. So a point at 0, point at 4, and a point at 2. So I have two midpoints that I need to check. So I'm going to start off with what's in the middle of 0 and 2. That would be 1. So let's find f of 1. And then what is in the middle of 2 and 4? That would be 3. All right, go ahead and pause the video while you find those two numbers. And then you can see if you agree with me. Okay, so when I did the math, I had 3 and negative 3. So I'm going to put a point at 1, 3, and a point at 3, negative 3. And it looks like it's going to work out. Because remember, my arrow here should be pointing down. So I'm coming up, going through these points, and that would be my graph. All right, let's look at question B. This is an even positive. Even positive, both arrows should go up. Again, we're going to start by taking out our greatest common factor. And for this one, that would be x squared. I'm going to factor that down a little bit more. Two numbers that multiply to be negative 5 and add to negative 4 would be negative 5 and positive 1. And when I set these equal to 0, I have 0, 0 as a solution, 5, 0, and negative 1, 0. Now, if I look at the degree on each factor, this one is even, so it's going to bounce off the 0. It's not going to go through, but for these two, it will go through. So I have a point at negative 1, 0, and 5. And unfortunately, both of our midpoints are decimals, but that's okay. We can do that. Let me go ahead and go to the right. Okay. Okay. So my first midpoint would be 0.5. And my second midpoint, oh, sorry, go back. Not 0.5 because it's 0 and negative 1. So it would be negative 0.5. So let me go back, fix that. So we have f of negative 0.5, 0.5, and we also have positive 2.5. All right, go ahead and pause the video, type those in. So for the first one, I got approximately negative 0.7. For the second one, I got negative 54.7. So this first one doesn't really go down much. I mean, it doesn't even come down far enough to hit -1. But the second one goes off the chart. So again, like I said, if it's ever off the chart, nobody's counting down to 54. That is unrealistic. But I do put it under the chart or under the graph, and I label it to show what that point represents. So I'm going to do that to show that that point that's off the graph is 2.5 and negative 54.7. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. So we know we should have even, positive even, so I should be coming from the top. It's going to come down. It goes through, makes a U-turn very quickly, hits the 0. It doesn't go through at the 0 because remember, that's even. Bounces back down. Bounces back down, makes another U-turn. Okay, I'm trying to make this not look crazy, but okay, there we go. That's better. All right. So it's only touching these 3 places. There is a bounce there, and my end behavior does check out. So this is okay, and that is our quiz review for chapter 4.